Question number 9. Solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. So we have our equation 2x squared minus 8x minus 9, which is equal to 0. Now, the first thing we need to make sure is that our leading coefficient is a 1. In this example, it is not. So in order for us to do this, we have to divide every term by 2. And so then we end up getting x squared minus 4x minus 9 over 2, which is equal to 0. Now we need to isolate the variable terms on the left side of the equation. So we have x squared minus 4x, and that's going to equal positive 9 over 2 by adding 9 over 2 to both sides. Now we're going to complete the square by adding n to both sides of the equation. And n is equal to 1/2 times the middle term b, and then we're going to square it. Well, the middle term in our problem is -4, and then we're going to square that number. Well, half of -4 is -2, and when we square -2, we're going to get positive 4. So, in step number 4, we're now going to replace n to be 4. So we have x squared minus 4x. So we're going to rewrite now n to be plus 4 here and plus 4 over here. Now, in step number 5, we're going to factor x squared minus 4x plus 4, and keep in mind, what did we have to square to get positive 4? Well, it was minus 2. So it's going to be x minus 2 squared. Now over here we want to find a common denominator. So we know the common denominator between 1 and 2 is 2. So 2 times 1 gives you 2, 9 times 1 is 9. 1 times 2 is 2, so 4 times 2 is going to give you 8. So, in step number 6, we now have x minus 2 squared, which is equal to 17 over 2. Now, in step number 7, we're going to use the square root property. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So we have x minus 2 squared here, the square root, and then plus or minus, don't forget the plus or minus, the square root of 17 over the square root of 2. So now in step number 8, we have x minus 2, and that's equal to plus or minus the following. Now we want to make sure that we rationalize the denominator. So if we go back a few sections, in order to rationalize the denominator, we do not want to leave the denominator with the square root symbol. So that means we're going to have to multiply both the numerator and denominator by the square root of 2. So that's going to give us the square root of 34, because 17 times 2 is 34. And the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is going to give us 2. So now this becomes plus or minus the square root of 34 over 2. And so now, in order to solve for x, we're going to isolate x, and we're going to add 2 to both sides. So we get 2 plus or minus the square root of 34 over 2. And so if we want to find a common denominator, we can put a 1 over the 2. And so then we're going to get a common denominator of 2. So 1 times 2 is going to give us 2. 2 times 2 is going to give us 4. And so therefore, we can rewrite this all over the same denominator. So it's going to equal 4 plus or minus the square root of 34 over 2. So that means we're going to have two solutions. We have 4 plus the square root of 34 over 2, or 4 minus the square root of 34 over